And Mark Carney is a tax cheat? Well, yeah, we were talking about that. But the thing is, all of these scandals are stacking up. We have a ton of tabs to go through today, talking about how Mark Carney is being influenced by China, talking about how Mark Carney is being influenced or using his position to enrich himself through Brookfield and other deals. And all of it stacks up to, I mean, he lies about things. All of it stacks up to Mark Carney not being very trustworthy about anything and having some very eyebrow-raising Ghislaine Maxwell connections, direct connections, phone numbers in the little black book connections, and all of that is just really strange. And it's turning into Mark Carney having just a terrible, terrible campaign. Well, and he's boring to listen to, and it seems discombobulated and not really coherent, put together. He's not rolling out platform planks or anything like that. He's just kind of saying things, and he sounds like an idiot a lot of the time. Really? And people keep telling us he's smart, and I just don't see it. I don't see it at all. Carney's got binders full of women. Marco Mendiccino's in the binders full of women for some strange reason. He got asked by a reporter, hey, how come all of your advisors are men? And he says, oh, yeah, no, I've got lots of women. Here's one woman, and then Marco Mendiccino, and lots of women, tons of women. I can't even name the women because there's so many. CTV is publishing PPC projected seats in the 50s, and that's wild. I'll show that to you. And there's some kind of I'll show you the CTV feed directly because it seems like I didn't believe it at first either. I thought it was a doctored image. I saw somebody saying, oh yeah, no, this is doctored from this image. And I saw the two, but then the actual CTV feed came through with the PPC projected seats. So I'll show that to you. And there's some controversy around it. So that's interesting to me as well. Helen Grus was found guilty for doing her job, and Trump is ending sanctuary cities, and honestly, a lot more. There's so many things going on today. It's a really big shoe. It's a really big shoe. So lots going on. Let's get to it first. Philip says, we have to talk about polls, and they're rigged. The polls are rigged just like the elections are rigged. The polls are rigged so that we believe the rigged election story. The polls are rigged because if they didn't rig the polls, when the loser in all the polls wins the election, we wouldn't believe that story. So they rig the polls to make it palatable when they rig the election. And so that's what we're watching here. And Contrarian does a bit of a dig for us. But Philip starts us off. He says, January 5th versus March 25th, 2025. What changed? January 5th, the whole country was blue, with the possible exception of Quebec, which is Bloc Québécois blue. And so that's interesting, right? And everywhere is blue in January. Everywhere, right? The Liberals were a party that was dead on arrival. Nobody was interested. It was Kathleen Wynne in Ontario in 2008 or 2018. So nobody wanted to vote for them. And then magically, the day the election is called, the Liberals are ahead in the polls. How does that happen? And that happens through owning a polling company. You just buy a polling company, and then the polling company does what you want, and they put out polls that put your preferred party at the top. And bingo, bango, bongo, you got yourself a winning horse, baby, right? Like, no problem. So Liaison, I think that's Liaison. They're the polling company. They're getting tons of funding from the Liberal government, and they just started publishing Liberal-friendly polls. Here's Contrarian, and he goes into it, and he's got a 10-minute video, and he's like, you will not believe... 7 minutes in, he's talking about Yen Pao Wu and all of the same players Andy Lee's talking about. And he's basically explaining how they're influencing this election with money in the background. And it's very public. And if you're paying any kind of attention at all, you can't miss it. But a lot of people don't pay any attention at all. Here we go.
Canada website. This is where they take all the polling and they kind of give you a modeling on who's winning based on what polls have been submitted. And when you go look at all the federal polling right now, you can see the ones that I pointed out in the red arrow. Now, these are the ones we're going to focus on because these make a huge difference on why the polls just went a sudden uprise in Liberals. And there's a few more there. When before that, it was all conservative. Now I'm going to point out why this happened. Now, if you look at this place, Liaison, they started doing their polling March 12th. And when you type their name in to see how many polls they've done, and submitted to 338, you can see it's only been since March 12th, and they've been pounding them out ever since. And conveniently, this was right after Mark Carney took office.
March 9th.
But when you type in all the other ones, they do it sporadically, and they've been doing it for, since 2020, 2021. And you notice how these ones are all conservative. I'm not saying every single one of them are. There's an odd one there that's not conservative, but majority of their polling came out conservative. Same with this one, you can see all conservative. And it goes all the way down to conservative. But back in the like 2021, 2022-ish, Liberals did have a slight lead there, but then they lost their lead, for the obvious reasons. And same with the IPSOS, same thing you can see. And of course, because Leeson is putting out all these polls, you can go to the CBC News poll tracker as well, and you can see all the recent ones there are from Leeson as well.
For those who are just listening, it's dominating. So of the last 20 polls, I think this is 20. Let's count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 10. So roughly, I think that's 20 ballpark. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 of them are Leeson polls from March. There's March polls in here. There's a February poll that's not Leeson. Okay, so it's mid-March. I can't see because his head's in the way, but before March 10th and 12th. So Leeson's flooding the market with their bullshit data. Isn't that crazy, right?
March 12th. Now, looking into this polling company, I guess they've been around for over a decade. And as you see here, it says Leeson upholds the highest standards in polling. So if they've been in there for a whole decade, then why did they just start March 12th and never had anything before that, like every other polling that's listed on this website and on the CBC website? And conveniently it says Leeson Strategies, a member of the Canadian Research Insight Council, was the most accurate polling firm in the 2025 provincial elections. And
polls are rigged. So the polls are rigged, so we believe what we're told is the result of the election. Okay. And he goes through, it's a 10-minute video, so it's beyond the scope of this podcast today. But honestly, I really encourage you go check out Contrarian and find this 10-minute video. And the breakdown he puts together is comprehensive and interesting. The polls are rigged, and it's a coordinated thing with the media as well. Here's what Ryan uncovered yesterday. The polls, or the posts from the Toronto Star, Globe and Mail, are just from today. How is this not deemed a form of election interference? They're a threat to our democracy. So Toronto Star says Pierre Poilievre's advantage is slipping rapidly away, so he's trying something he's never done before. Globe and Mail says, opinion, I'm a conservative, but we'll be voting Liberal. Letters to the editor from March 25th. And there's 4 more headlines that are in a similar timbre, in a similar vein. And these are based on bullshit polls. And again, Leeson is getting money from the federal government, and Contrarian goes through that again in this. I'm live streaming right now, but if I wasn't live streaming, I might pause it and find the specific part where he talks about that. But yeah, there's money changing hands. There are people turning a blind eye to this. It is apparent for anybody who's watching, honestly, that this is rigged, and so I don't know what to do about that. It's rigged, and they're gonna go with it, because not that they haven't been caught out before, but they've done this before. It's nothing new to them. The only thing that's new is I'm seeing it very clearly. And it seems like other people are seeing it very clearly. But is that going to translate into a loss? I don't know. I have no idea. We're going to do this a little differently, because my election pet tab was getting so full and things were getting a bit confusing because there was Mark Carney election stuff. And Mark Carney's election is not going very well. Poilievre's is going pretty well. Bernier's is actually going pretty well. And I'll show you what I mean by that. Jagmeet's is not going well. So it's a bit of a sandwich. We're going to start with Carney, and there's a lot of tabs here, but I'm hoping it's not going to take that long. We're going to talk about Poilievre in the middle. PPC, they're doing well, and NDP, they're doing badly. And then we've got lots more show after that too. So it's as I said, a really big shoe. Let's talk about Mark Carney. Raquel Dancho says Mark Carney was named Trudeau's economic advisor. Then he meets with senior Communist Party officials. Then his investment fund, Brookfield, gets a $276 million loan from China. Mark Carney owns millions of dollars of Brookfield shares today. How can he lead Canada when the government of China has that much leverage against him personally? Great question. And she's responding to Pierre Poilievre, who's highlighting the same thing. Pierre Poilievre says, in September, Mark Carney officially became the chair of Trudeau's Task Force on Economic Growth. In October, Carney met with the deputy director of the People's Bank of China. Just 2 weeks later, news broke that Brookfield secured a $250 million loan from the Chinese state-owned bank. Now he owes a hostile foreign regime, and his interests are against Canada's interests. Why won't he reveal to all Canadians all of his conflicts? Remember when Champagne he was the foreign minister under Trudeau, and he had mortgages in Chinese banks, And then he paid off those mortgages. He's like, don't worry about that. It's all done now. I don't have any kind of conflict of interest or any foreign governments or anything like that. Don't worry, right? Because the Chinese communists, the Chinese bank is working for the Chinese Communist Party. And so you can't have that. You can't have that. Toronto Sun is reporting if Carney can't be trusted with the truth, how can he be trusted with the country? He can't. He can't. Obviously. Oh, this was supposed to be with the China stuff. It's not really hard to find out about Mark Carney's investment portfolio online. One of the big ones is, wait for it, Chinese real estate moguls. Surprise, right? So there's all these Chinese real estate moguls are invested in Brookfield, and we just talked about that. And they said surprise, and I thought, oh, that's a funny GIF, right? Funny story about this GIF. This is the supplies closet GIF with a bunch of karate guys who are ethnic Asian saying supplies, right? So, but if you Google the GIF, the door does not open. This is from the Brave search images. The door does not open. You can't see who the people saying supplies are. Is this racism? What is happening here? It's a hilarious joke. If Carney can't be trusted with the truth, how can he be trusted with the country? Yeah, that's really one of the main questions. He's lied about everything. Every single day he's been in front of the cameras on the election trail. He has lied. And how can anybody be okay with that? How can anybody be fine with that? I'm not fine with that. And I'm also not okay with what this guy's saying here. Now, this is a 4-minute long video. And I think all 4 minutes is probably worth... Legendary
economist.
And no. I didn't push play. I was changing the speed. This is not an incident. This guy's whole thing is worth listening to. It's 4 minutes long. We're going to listen to about 2 minutes of it, maybe a little bit more than the 2 minutes. He is talking about Mark Carney and GAMFs and the climate cartel and what the climate cartel does to companies that don't fall in line. Okay, so this is what Mark Carney coordinated and pushed and allowed and said, yes, we're going to do that. This is what's good for the climate change, good for the country, good for business, good for everything. And it's criminal. It's collusion. You can't do this. And this guy clearly outlines, and this is I think this is a House Judiciary Committee hearing, and he's making very clear, you guys are acting in an illegal way and calling it not illegal. However, what you're doing is illegal, and we're gonna get you. So if Mark Carney becomes prime minister, I don't think he can go to the United States. He might get arrested. Here we go.
As the legendary economist and Nobel laureate Milton Friedman explained, quote, there has never in history been a more effective machine for eliminating poverty than the free enterprise system and the free market. Collusion, on the other hand, raises prices and reduces both output and consumer choice. Thus, antitrust law aims to protect competition and prohibit collusion. In fact, the Supreme Court has described collusion as, quote, the supreme evil of antitrust. Despite these long-standing economic and legal principles, the climate cartel is engaged in anti-competitive collusion to impose radical environmental, social, and governance, or ESG, goals on the American people. In his testimony to this committee, Andrew Bahar highlighted the 3 C's of collusion. They collaborate, convene, and coordinate. Gee, it's like you wanted to say the word collusion, but you didn't say it, so you asked ChatGPT to give me an alliteration, to go to the thesaurus and find 3 words that are like collusion but not collusion. These were his words: collaborate, convene, and coordinate with other members of the climate cartel to impose their ideological agenda on the American people. This climate cartel consists of left-winged activists, dominant financial institutions, and the groups and initiatives that facilitate the collusion among them. Specifically, groups like Climate Action 100+ expressly require the investors who join them to pressure the companies they invest in to, quote, decarbonize and reach net zero emissions. Asset owners like California Public Employees Retirement System, or CalPERS, and asset managers like Arjuna Capital then use the investments they control to force companies to disclose their carbon emissions, to reduce their carbon emissions, and to adopt governance mechanisms that enforce these commitments, even though these commitments are bad for investors and consumers. The climate cartel engages in a series of escalating pressure tactics to force American companies to act against their own self-interest and adopt its desired left-wing policies. First, the climate cartel leverages its investment holdings to demand meetings with corporate management. If corporations refuse to cave, the climate cartel then escalates to filing shareholder resolutions demanding that companies take action. Groups like Climate Action 100 Plus then, quote, flag these resolutions, drawing greater attention to them and making them even more effective. If companies still fail to bow to its demands, the climate cartel then seeks to replace members of their boards of directors. Notably, the climate cartel did so at ExxonMobil in 2021, replacing 3 directors with members of its own choosing.
Okay, so they're vicious, and they will go to great lengths in order to get what they want. And Mark Carney is part of the climate cartel, right? The GAMFs, Ryan outlines this. Opening statement from House Judiciary Committee regarding the climate cartel, which GAMFs, GFANZ, Mark Carney's Climate Alliance is implicated in. This is an antitrust and collusion investigation. Every word in this statement is exactly what Mark Carney has been making financial institutions and companies do. This is who we want running our country? No. Nope. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Breaking, says Table Salt. New research has unearthed that Mark Carney's firm, Brookfield Assets Management, owned an Australian coal shipping port, the Dalrymple Bay Terminal, which supplied China with 5.8 million tons of dirty coal a year, proof in comments. And this is well known. Although if you don't, this is like from February. So just when all of this stuff comes out, right, it all ties up together into a nice little package. And sometimes it's too dispersed to see the package, so you have to tie it all together, right? Western Standard says Carney refuses to rule out export taxes on Alberta oil or Saskatchewan uranium and potash against the United States. So Mark Carney thinks that he's in charge of the province's natural resources? Oh no. I think that he's not. The feds are not. The province is in charge of their natural resources and developing them and selling them and profits from them and all the rest. So it's very, and then equalization came in, right? Womp womp. I digress. Unless Carney has support from Danielle Smith, he's not going to be able to do what he says he's going to do here because it's not going to happen. Alberta's legislature will pass blocking legislation, and then the climate cartel will do what was described in the video there in order to get compliance, up to and including putting their own people in order to do it, right? Oh, lovely UCP you've got there. Shame if some climate zealots got a hold of it, right? Scary stuff. Melissa Lanceman says Mark Carney's dodged Canadian taxes using offshore tax havens while running Brookfield. He's got to answer for why he put his personal profits ahead of Canadians and whether he's still cashing in on the scheme. Canadians deserve a leader who puts Canada first, not Mark Carney first. Right, and that's very true. That's very true, and unfortunate that we are not taking it seriously, and we don't take it seriously, unfortunately. Sam Cooper says funds were registered in Bermuda, among other locations, allowing investors of Brookfield to benefit from significant tax advantages. The funds created while Carney was on Brookfield's board of directors are the Brookfield Global Transition Fund, $15 billion, and ... But I don't know if there's more to this. I don't know if there's more to this tweet. I can't click into this tweet, but it's a CBC article, and here's the CBC article, and it says Carney's Green Fund at Brookfield used Bermuda tax haven to attract investors. Oh, really? Tax dodging? You don't say. You do it well, eh? I'll get to keep more of my money and keep it away from that evil Canadian government you now want to run? Okay. I bet that's attractive to investors. Tell me more about dodging taxes in Bermuda, Mr. Carney. Honestly, I like how sanitized it is. I'm sorry we're not going into this today, but the show is just really, really long. So if I start reading every article, we're going to be here forever, and I've got other things to do today. I'm sorry. Canada Proud is reporting the Telegraph, one of Britain's newspapers of record, reports that Mark Carney's volcanic temper threatens to derail his election campaign. I knew it. I knew he had a temper. Like when he told Stephanie, what's her face, Lemieux, to look inside herself, I thought, oh man, this is bad already, because you can't tell somebody that. As a politician, you can't tell a reporter that. You can say things, but you shouldn't attribute to the reporter the emotions one way or the other. You can make statements about them, right? But you shouldn't you shouldn't talk directly to the reporter. You should answer the question. It's kind of an exchange, right? Anyway, as soon as I saw that, I thought he's going to start yelling at somebody at some point. He's going to think he's in the back room of a bank and he's going to yell. He's going to raise his voice like a bank manager. Think of a lawyer on a bad day. Think of a partner. Suits. Have you seen Suits? I know lawyers, I know accountants, right? And like they have tempers because they have high stakes a lot of the time, right? Sometimes they have tempers, not all. Most accountants I know who day trade now, no temper at all. But when they were working for somebody and they were accountants and they had a bad day, they yell. And so it's interesting because you can almost see it. And I mean, you can see it on this guy. You can see it. He's got a temper, and this is what the United Kingdom says about them. The Guardian's former economics editor Larry Elliott reported that Carney was charming if he chose to be. I don't know if I believe that, but there's another side to his character. Journalists sometimes caught a glimpse of his volcanic temper, Elliott wrote earlier this month, and bank staff were wary of getting on the wrong side of him. Carney is an intelligent man. When they have to say climate change is real, when they have to keep telling you that he's intelligent, like bashing you over the head with it, I don't believe it. And perhaps his combination of personality traits suit him well in the ultra-competitive world of international finance, but will it survive the intense scrutiny of an election campaign? Given that Carney has largely lived outside of Canada for years, many Canadians will thus far be unaware of his failures, including his less than stellar record at the Bank of England. They will similarly not have been exposed to his personal foibles, but in recent weeks, his short fuse has been on full display. And they give some examples, and this one is a more intense back and forth took place between Carney, the Globe and Mail's Stephanie Leavitt's, and CBC's network Rosemary Barton on March 17th. They had asked Carney about Carney's blind trust amid concerns about possible conflict of interest due to his years in the private sector. When Barton said it was very difficult to believe there couldn't be any conflicts, Carney told her blankly, "Look inside yourself. You start from a prior of conflict and ill will." I mean, yeah, miss. That's a big miss, and you need to do better. So we'll see. And I mean, I don't think that Carney is going to do better. It's like that lawyer who's got that short fuse going into politics. Like, this isn't going to go well, and he's not going to go far. And I feel like that here. It's like watching Ignatieff or Stéphane Dion, who couldn't actually speak English well. You have to be like, it would be like me being a politician and trying to relay my thoughts in French. Actually, Mark Carney can speak better French than I thought. He can at least put sentences together and relay his words. Language is almost a weapon, and you can sharpen it by using it more, right? And so French it's difficult for me to use effectively. I'm much better in English, and so it's difficult. Anyway, I digress. Moving on. David says, under Mark Carney's leadership, here's Mark Carney says, under my leadership, Canada will invest in our security, meet our 2% spending target by 2030, and put our full weight into NATO. Okay. 5 more years, says David. Under Mark Carney's leadership, the Liberal Party is planning to keep freeloading on security off of the United States for another 5 years. Russia has been wondering what elbows up means. They play hockey and they park their nuclear subs in our territorial waters with zero fear of Canada doing anything or being capable of defending itself. What it means is that the same Liberal Party that found $50 billion for bankrupt EV battery plants in the name of climate can't find the same to meet our NATO commitments for 5 years. Elbows up, except for the immediate defense of Canada. Unserious party, unserious promises. Yeah, well, that's it. Their platform isn't at all coherent. It's ridiculous. They've caused a lot of the problems they're now promising to fix, and the fixes they're proposing won't fix it. So, Chrystia Freeland says Canada's sovereignty is non-negotiable. We'll see what you say when you can't find food in the grocery store, Chrystia. Or all we have is potatoes and potato chips. That is why, if reelected, we will invest 2% of GDP in defense spending by 2030, commit to vote Liberal Party today for new submarines, heavy icebreakers, advanced drones, and a raise for CIF members. We'd probably have food in the grocery stores if our economy collapsed, because we have lots of food, but it wouldn't be a diverse amount of food, and there would probably be caps. Like, you wouldn't be able to buy all of the things that you wanted to buy. You'd have to, and also, if we're that bad, the economy's probably collapsed. And I'm talking, of course, of if Trump imposes tariffs and cripples our economy, because Chrystia Freeland and her party is stupid and doesn't actually negotiate in good faith, which they haven't done up to now. They haven't taken Trump seriously, and they haven't done anything to meaningfully stop anything that Trump's threatening at all, right? Period. They haven't meaningfully stopped the drugs. They haven't meaningfully stopped or closed the borders. They haven't even reopened the government to talk about any of this. It's been one bullshit excuse after another. It's unbelievably maddening. The Liberal Party says, Pierre Poilievre and his Conservative Party abandoned our armed forces and our veterans. Liberals stepped up and changed that. Here's a veteran who says, okay, I've had a chance to cool off and compose myself to a point where I can type coherently. Firstly, no party has ever truly had the back of the Canadian Armed Forces or our veterans. None. 90% of the time, a politician only visits the troops to make some outlandish announcement and then use our men and women in uniform as backdrops for a photo op. This particular government, the one that Mark Carney leads, fought veterans in court for years, told them that they were asking for more than they can give, but still managed to find $20 million to send overseas to tell people in Ghana not to poop on beaches. Right? It's unforgivable. It's unforgivable. And people don't hear it framed like this ever. And it's unforgivable. Liberals' DEI initiatives infiltrated the Canadian Armed Forces and saw an organization based on merit morph into a dystopian social experiment where race, gender, and pronouns took priority over common sense, combat readiness, proficiency, and competency. I'm not going to touch on procurement or preparedness other than to say that in 2023, our military had less than 3 days worth of munitions to sustain a fight like we were seeing in Ukraine. The only people to blame for that are the ones who have been in charge for a decade, and newsflash, it's no better 2 years after the fact. So to both parties, but in particular to the Liberals, don't try and aggrandize your supposed record and moral superiority over one another in regards to veterans or the CAF. You've failed at them at every opportunity that mattered. Yep, absolutely true. General Miller is responding to this too. He says many things that you can throw at the other party, but saying they abandoned the armed forces and the Liberals stepped up and changed that, nothing could be further from the truth. The last decade has been a decade of despair for the Canadian Armed Forces because of the Liberal government. Absolutely. So it's not going well for Mark Carney. Watch, after being told he's being criticized by Liberal women for having almost all men occupying senior roles in his cabinet, Mark Carney said that's not correct, naming 2 women in his office, Janice Charest, and she's a woman, and Marco Mendiccino. So honestly, that's really what he says. It's all in French, but I feel like it's very rudimentary French, and so we'll listen here. Maybe, if my computer catches up. Yes. It doesn't want to go. Sorry, everybody. My computer is struggling this morning. I don't know why. Apologies. I can't even pause it. Usually I'd pause it if I was having an issue like this, but there we go.
There are some liberal women who are criticizing you for having a lot of men in your inner circle, particularly in senior positions. What do you say to them? That's not correct. There are 2 people working in my office, Janice Charest, she's a woman, and Marco Mendiccino, and I have a number of women who are part of my team. And I'm proud of the strong candidates we have recruited. We have a number of them right here. We have quite a few, and we're united. And we will fight for Canada. And
Clumsy. My many women will fight for Canada, led by Marco Mendiccino. He's not a woman. Oh, right. Yeah. Right. But Marco Mendiccino's there. All right. That's happening. Alex says, Mark Carney, now Canada's Prime Minister and Liberal leader, has not articulated a detailed standalone policy on crime, bail, and criminal justice reform since entering politics. How is it possible to have a Prime Minister with no position on crime and no media bothering to ask him for one? Great question. Michelle Rempel says, oh no, Evan Solomon was sharing Mark Carney's ego, and he didn't look very closely at the tweet he was sharing because it was not the right bus. It says retard bus. And it's Mark Carney's ego, and he says, let's get to work. And so Evan Solomon shared this. So womp womp, right? Like unforced error after idiotic statement. Western Standard says Carney confuses École Polytechnique with Concordia while introducing candidate who survived the massacre. Whoops, which massacre did you survive again? Elias says the knives are out in Quebec. Jonathan Trudeau is one of the most influential political columnists on the broadcast side in the province. Mark Carney mistakenly said the 1989 Montreal massacre saw 14 women killed happened at Concordia, not Polytechnique, where when discussing one of his candidates today, he also screwed up her name, but that was more of a flub. So, wah wah, he's doing terrible. Absolutely terrible. Chris says, look what we dug up. Mark Carney supporting the Century Initiative. But I can hear my computer still struggling. So it's just 22 seconds and they're talking about the Century Initiative and he's thanking the Globe and Mail. But he's on board with the Century Initiative is the implication when he's sitting there talking with them and doing press with them, et cetera, et cetera. So that's pretty interesting and pretty concerning if you ask me. We're going to keep going because I want to get to the end of the PPC part. So, and then we'll head over to the paid section. Sorry, I just want to get the election stuff out of the way because it's election time now. And this is, I don't know. I think this is important to tell people, even though nobody can ever watch my show. Dozens of us. Mark Nixon says, Pierre Poilievre will pay Mark Carney's $75,000 fee to do the French debate. Pierre says, how can he take on Donald Trump if he can't debate me? Pierre is on fire right now. We need to see more of this. Yeah, except that, and I'll bring this up during the PPC part too, Maxime Bernier is excluded, I guess, from that debate and from the English debate. So he's willing to pay for the Liberal to come in and debate him, but he's excluding Maxime Bernier. Weak. If you think you're the best, then have the best people on there. And even if they're not viewed as the best, because people could say, oh, he's not the best, blah, blah, blah. Even if they're not viewed as the best, having him off the stage confirms that Poilievre is fearful of him. So, I mean, you might as well do that and face it directly. Poilievre is having a much better campaign. There are a lot of people who are interested in him. There's a huge lineup. This is the Hamilton lineup, and huge rally. Lots and lots of people coming to show up. He's filled an entire room, right? Lots of people there. Huge numbers in Canada, in Hamilton. It almost looks like American politics. There are so many people. So he's in the middle of the room. He's fist pumping, and et cetera, et cetera. The family's there. Everybody's taking photos. Lots of people in the room. Okay, and you can watch the whole thing. The whole video is here if you're interested in that. He's able to do an hour-long speech. Uh-oh, I pushed play. I didn't mean to push play. I don't know why my computer's having a hard time today. Anyway, I'll stop that. The ability for Poilievre to handle a crowd, to draw a crowd, handle a crowd is rare. I'll just compare very quickly to Jagmeet Singh, because Jagmeet Singh didn't have a crowd, didn't have really anybody, and he was not letting people into his venue. So this is NDP opening his campaign, Jagmeet's campaign, I think, or the entire NDP campaign in Hamilton. And I mean, 100 people there maybe, and they kept a bunch of people out, and we'll talk about that when we get back there. But it's interesting, the numbers, it's interesting, the scale. Just looking at this, the winner is obvious. Like, just looking at this, the numbers look decisive already, right? Carney's got 200 people, NDP has 100 people maybe, and Poilievre gets thousands of people in Hamilton. So, and NDP was in Hamilton. I don't think the Liberals were in Hamilton, but Ontario. So they can't get enough people. Crazy stuff. Even in Toronto, Conservative leader, Global News is reporting, Conservative leader Poilievre says no Canadian would lose their federal dental care or pharmacare coverage under a government led by him. So it's interesting. He's saying what he's going to cut and what he's not going to cut. And I think that we need a bigger tax cut than 15%. And I think we need to do a full public audit. I think we need to have Global Affairs Canada audited. I think we need something like Doge. I think we need way more transparency. This doesn't go far enough. So it's disappointing for me because it doesn't go far enough. Poilievre again says lower taxes for seniors, allow working seniors to earn up to $34,000 in tax-free, $10,000 more than now. I like that. Allow seniors the option of keeping savings growing in RSPs until age 73, up from 71. Sure, people are living longer. Protect OAS, GIS, and CCP by keeping retirement at age 65. Sign if you agree. I don't know why he's not addressing the fact that the WEF manages our CCP. I thought we were supposed to be sovereign and self-governed. Poilievre? No? Weird. Nothing, no mention. An easy win, no mention. We could have our money managers manage it. Wouldn't that be better than the WEF? No? Globe says CSIS alleges India organized support for Poilievre's 2022 conservative leadership bid. Nicole says, why is CSIS not saying who China helped to get elected? Weird, right? Super weird. And then here's more of that. Keith is responding to Rupa. Rupa says they've had this information on the Chinese infiltration in Pierre Poilievre's leadership race. With no evidence, Poilievre or anyone in his inner circle had any knowledge of India's interference, but only releasing now. Gee, I wonder why. Keith says the timing of CSIS releasing this about the government's official opposition leader during an election, while at the same time doing nothing about the evidence of actual election interference by China, is another reason for Canadians to have lost confidence in our institutions. Absolutely. Our institutions are corrupt and actually work against us. The Senate is working against us. And by us, I mean sane citizens who want regular governance. The Senate are globalists appointed by Trudeau, unfortunately, and they're going to be a big problem in the coming administration, I have no doubt. Sam Cooper says CSIS has intelligence Justin Trudeau was supported by China from the start, and I suppose they have reporting at this minute that Mark Carney is being supported by China, but Canadians won't be informed before voting. That's the problem. Add India, Khalistan, Iran, all parties. So they're all infiltrated, and I don't know PPC, but it seems like I agree that they're all infiltrated at some level. And this is the Liberals using the apparatus of government against their political opponents. And that's yucky. That's not very good at all. Maxime Bernier says, press release, Bernier denounces rigged process to exclude him from leaders debate Tuesday, March 25th for immediate release. And it's a little bit long here. I'll read some of it. The leader of the People's Party of Canada, Maxime Bernier, today addressed what he described as the phony process set up by the Leaders Debate Commission to exclude him from the debates. He was holding a press conference devoted to discussing mass immigration at the border with Maine in St. Theophile, I'm getting that terribly wrong, I'm sorry, at the southern border tip of his boat riding. Bernier referred to a TV report about his campaign launch aired last night on Radio Canada's Le Téléjournal, in which the host Céline G described him as a leader who won't be at the debates. Maxime Bernier, our translation. The clip can be viewed here. How is it possible that Miss Galipo knew this already? I think we have the answer. Radio Canada CBC will produce the debates, so they're talking to the commission, and I presume everybody there already knows that I won't be invited. And she spilled the beans live on TV, probably unintentionally. So that's interesting. Meanwhile, I like that Bernier is doing daily press conferences. Here he is. The press conference referenced in the tweet here is here, if you're interested. But they're at least the communication's getting better, so that's interesting. I don't know that we'll listen. We don't need to listen to this. I just wanted to show you that here's the press conference. But meanwhile, this kind of reporting is being aired on CTV, and it says that the People's Party have a projection of 56 seats. And like, everybody's saying that this is fake, but it looks very real to me. I don't think that this has been faked. This is somebody using their phone to record their television. They're standing in like a living room, recording their television using their phone like this. You know what I mean? And so it seems totally legit to me. Like, watch, here we go.
Show it's a tight race between the two parties. Back at the beginning of the year, Nano's research had the Conservatives.
It says January 1st seat projections. 225 for the Conservatives, 32 for the Liberals, 6 for the Bloc, 6 for the NDP, 52 for the PPC. That's what it says. It's CTV, and you just watched it come up on the screen.
A majority by a landslide, with 225 seats in the House of Commons. By the end of February, the Liberals had significantly narrowed that gap.
So the February 28th seats projections are 129 for the Conservatives, 96 for the Liberals, 24 for the Bloc, 9 for the NDP, 1 for the Green, and 84 for the PPC. And I've seen an image that says this is too close to call. These ones are too close to call. And it was on CTV as well. So I don't know why this is on here. I don't know if this is accurate information. I'm not saying, look, the PPC have 84 seats projected, although that is what this says. Okay, that is what this says as of February 28th. But I don't know that that's legitimate. There are people out there saying it could be somebody who works at CTV putting the logo there. It could be an accident, although that seems unlikely. Do you think that this is a doctored image? Like, this whole report is from the CTV broadcast. It's 2.5 minutes, and it just ends with those polls. It looks legit to me. Jason Levine says that it's debunked and it's not real. Bob, who's Bob fact checker, says this is real. So there's controversy around this. Do you think it's real? It seems real and legitimate to me. It's interesting. I don't know. It'll be interesting. It's interesting to me because I thought, what's the play here? A whole bunch of people were saying they're letting PPC rise in order to split the vote to let the Liberals maintain power. And I thought that was a little bit far, maybe, right? Like, we're gonna give these guys popularity so they split the vote from the Conservatives, and then, although this configuration maintains a minority, but it gives the PPC a lot of seats, and I mean, almost balance of power, right? Like, if the PPC support the Conservatives would have a majority. Otherwise, and I mean, like, in order to get things passed, the Conservatives are going to have to work with the PPC in that configuration, if that is a configuration. But going from 0 seats to 84 seats sounds very high. I don't know that that's realistic, but they've been around for 5 years, so maybe. I mean, like, what do you think? Let me know in the comments. I have no idea at this point in time. On one side, I think plausible. We've seen crazier things happen. They're not forming government, but they're getting a lot of seats, so that could be interesting, and that'd be that would change the landscape quite a lot. What do you think? Let me know. Here's Maxime Bernier. He was invited by Frank to a podcast to have an official debate that includes Maxime Bernier, and Maxime Bernier says, I accept. And so we haven't, and all the other leaders have been invited: Blanchette, Carney, Polyev, Jagmeet Singh, and this one, Jonathan Pedot, co-chief party of, he's the green guy. He's the co-leader. Ridiculous. Here's NDP. This is, I thought, very interesting. So I showed you the inside of the NDP's campaign launch, and it's as cringe as you want to. It's as cringe as you think it's going to be. Also, this guy's doing some weird hand signals. Earlier on, he's standing there with his hands it looks all interesting hand signals. Anyway, it's not near the energy that Pierre Poilievre had, and here is these guys keeping people out of the event.
I would like her to respond.
I'm the person that has to let you in here.
No, sir, you said I could come in, and then she shook her head no, and then you said sorry, no.
Is it because
It's really tight in there.
Several people have left.
That's what we needed to know.
Dozens of people have left since it was already too tight.
So the person in front of you, does she work for the campaign or?
I don't know. I just want to go and support Mr. Singh. I don't understand.
Major point.
So they're keeping people out. Isn't that interesting? It's just very concerning. Jagmeet Singh is trying to get content creators on the bus. So here you go.
Friends, if you are a content creator, check this out. We have reserved a spot for you. If you believe we can take power away from rich CEOs and give it back to working class folks, then text creator to my public number. We want you on the bus. See you.
Wow. That looks like a campaign that's in trouble, if you ask me. Very honestly, it really, really looks like a campaign in trouble. They hired Rachel Gilmore for fact checking. CTV News hired Rachel Gilmore, and Andy Lee did some digging. Rachel got a job with Check My Ads in January, and Andy Lee says Rachel Gilmore's new employer is funded by an American activist organization called Democracy Fund. They want to cancel right-wing media organizations and voices and get their funding pulled to strengthen our democracy. And then she gets hired by CTV as a fact checker, and she's dishonest. She's just dishonest. So that's the election stuff. We're going to head over to the paid show now. So thanks for watching, everybody, on the stream, and we'll catch you tomorrow. Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful